Welcome to Roshni Media Group. We are here to interview Karsh Kale, and we'll be asking him some interesting questions on global diversity, on his challenges in life, and on his Roshni moment, his inspirational moment. Welcome, Karsh.
Well, my first memories are in Queens, New York. My family moved from England in 1978 to Queens, and it was definitely a challenge. I think that my parents they left England because of the racism that my brother and sister my older brother and sister were facing growing up. So they came to America to kind of see if they would kind of find a better place to raise their kids. My father, being a doctor, was able to find good work in New York State. So eventually we moved to Long Island, and I grew up in a predominantly white Jewish community with not many Indians around. I think probably once a month I would meet the Indian community or the Maharashtrian community that we were connected with. But otherwise, I was quite isolated from it. But I did have this incredible thirst for Indian music. I started playing tabla when I was about 5-6 years old. And but that was always kind of this secret identity that I had. I think that's something that I have in common with a lot of second-generation immigrant kids, which is that we had a secret life. And I think some of us were able to figure out a way to turn that into something that we would do later on, and that's what I eventually was able to do. But I think initially it was mainly about alienation and trying to figure out how to fit in, and how to make sense of this kind of duality, this dual culture. For me, I've always been, I think any kind of hierarchical system where people are divided, whether it's classism, whether it's racism. I mean, these are things that we find all over the world. I think it's something that's very much come to a head now, and I think that's something that I try and address in what I do as an artist, which is to basically say that we coexist, all walks of life, all different cultures, all different forms, all different religions, all different social stratas, all of that. That we not just do we coexist, but we can harmoniously coexist. And oftentimes we're divided, whether it be by the media or by politics. We're always set to choose a particular side, as opposed to kind of step back and realize that we need to take a broader view of things politically. And I think that addresses a lot of different things. I think the definition of success has evolved over the years for me. If you had asked me that question 20 years ago, I would have had a very different answer. I think to be able to actually continue to follow your passion and make a living and live and take care of your family and do the two tasks that we have in front of us in life, which is to do one and to be able to accomplish the other. I think that's success. Because if you're able to do one and not the other is when you're still struggling. Role models, I think for me the first and foremost role model that really kind of, I think, affected me was Zakir Hussain. I saw him perform when I was 5 years old. He was kind of the catalyst for why not only do I play tabla, but why I became very experimental as a musician, and why I decided to try and create something new. He's always somebody who, even at his age now, he's continuously experimenting and trying new things, and at the same time is very rooted in the tradition where he comes from. So that was something that from a young age was very, very instrumental in kind of setting me on my path. But I'd say nowadays I look at my father's journey and my father as a huge role model, because he's somebody who came from a small village in Trimbakeshwar, which is outside of Nasik in Maharashtra, which had a population of maybe 400 or 500 people, and somehow made it to New York. And recently I was invited to perform at the White House, and And I realized that the prestige for him meant so much more than it even did for me, because he was somebody who had taken such a long journey and then was able to see his son be invited to perform at the White House and be introduced by President Obama. And these were things that were a huge highlight for me in my career, but I don't think I really understood my father's journey until I saw his reaction to that. There have been many inspirational moments, definitely most of them having to do with music. But I always go back to my earliest memories as a child, whether it be the first time I heard Indian music or the first time that I thought to myself that, it would be interesting to mix what I'm hearing from the living room, what my parents are listening to right now, and what my brother and sister are listening to right now. And these were very profound moments that when I look back now as when I was maybe 5, 6 years old, that I actually had these thoughts where there's something similar going on between these styles of music, and that too becoming analogous to what was similar in the cultures that I was growing up in. Well, I think that we, whether we like it or not, have been heading in the direction of global diversity. We've been sharing information on a level which is unprecedented, throughout history. Culturally, politically, artistically, there's so much to be able to, that we can take from the rest of the world. Something that I feel like it took me maybe 20 years to learn, and having the opportunity to travel the world and interact with musicians and artists and people from all over the world in all walks, has given me something that I think now a new generation can get by, not necessarily just going on the internet, but the internet has definitely opened up that ability to be able to feel that sense of being a global citizen. And that sense is to be able to empathize with the world and not just think locally. To be able to think globally, you have to be able to feel global. And I think that now is the time that I think in all aspects of life that we're closer to that kind of sentiment. I've always kind of stuck to the same message, which is follow your passion, because no matter what struggles you go through, that in the end that will be the greatest satisfaction that you will have, is that you followed that path, even if it goes against the grain of, say, your own family, your own community, your own, these are oftentimes the decisions that people need to make in their lives. And I think that difficult decision of being able to go out on your own, this was something that I took as a child as well, after reading the Gita, was that lesson of having to make that difficult decision, that at some point you need to follow your own path, and that path can't be necessarily set by anybody else.